were in the polls, and they have casted their votes. The voters have casted their votes, except the West Bengal. All the other 3 states and the 1 union territory has completed the election. Now we are going to look what is with the future of the particular state, how, irrespective of whichever government is going to be there, but we must analyze what the new government has to do, so that like anything. And today our topic is the Kerala, the way forward. Before I will go on my main topic, I would like to inform you that today is the World Health Day. World Health Day is a global health awareness day celebrated every year on 7th April under the sponsorship of World Health Organization, WHO, as well as other related organizations. In 1948, the WHO held the first World Health Assembly. The assembly decided to celebrate 7th April of each year with effect from 1950 as the World Health Day. The World Health Day is held to mark WHO's founding, and it's seen as an opportunity by the organization to draw worldwide attention to a subject of major importance to global health each year. COVID-19 has hit all countries hard, but its impact has been hardest on those communities which were already vulnerable, who are more exposed to the disease, less likely to have access to quality healthcare services, and more likely to experience adverse consequences as a result of measures implemented to contain the pandemic. Media conference with Goel wishes that more and more attention will be given to healthcare services to save the world from pandemics. Now the main topic, Kerala, the way forward. Kerala is a state on the southwestern Malabar coast of India. It was formed on 1st November 1956 following the passage of the State Reorganization Act by combining Malayalam-speaking regions of the erstwhile states of Travancore, Cochin, and Madras. Spread over 38,863 square kilometers, Kerala is the 21st largest Indian state by area. It is bordered by Karnataka to the north and northeast, Tamil Nadu to the east, and excuse me. Sorry. It is bordered by Karnataka to the north and northeast, Tamil Nadu to the east and south, and the Lakshadweep Sea to the west. With 3,33,87,677 inhabitants as per the 2011 census, Kerala is the 13th largest Indian state by population. It is divided into 14 districts, with the capital being Thiruvananthapuram. The economy of Kerala is the 13th largest in India, with an annual gross state product GSP of rupees 9.78 lakhs crores, or 138.8 billion US dollar in 2020-2021. Per capita GSP of Kerala during the same period is 2,05,484, or 2,917.97 US dollar, the 6th largest in India. The service sector dominates the Kerala economy, accounting for 64% of the gross value added in the state in the 2018-2019 period. According to Kerala State Planning Board's Economic Review 2020, Kerala has been and remains the most important example in independent India of the power of public action to improve the well-being of the people and to transform social, political, and cultural conditions in a state. Kerala has once again proved the power of public action in producing socially impactful outcomes. The state's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and associated crisis has been exemplary and widely appreciated. The unique response and resilience demonstrated in dealing with crisis year after year has made Kerala a model in governance. Kerala's growth rate in 2019-20 is lower than the rate in 2018-19. The lagged effect of 2018 and 2019 floods, recessionary national and international economy, onset of COVID-19 pandemic towards the end of last quarter of 2019-20 are the reasons for the slow growth. In fact, recessionary economic conditions at the national and international level were visible from 2019 onwards. This has been further aggravated by the COVID-19 pandemic. The unemployment rate in the state has declined from 11.4% in 2017-18 to 9% in 2018-19 as per the Periodic Labor Force Survey Report PLFS 2018-19. The unemployment rate is much higher among females, 17.1% as compared to males, 5%. The unemployment rate was 4.7% among males and 15.6% among females in rural area, while the rates were 5.2% among males and 18.8% among females in urban areas. Non-resident Keralites play an important role in the development of the state. However, the trend of return migration is increasing over the last few years. The number of return immigrants estimated by Kerala Migration Survey 2018 is 12.95 lakhs, about 60% of the number of immigrants. This has increased further by the crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The government has initiated new programs to reintegrated NRKs and provide assistance to those who have been adversely affected by the pandemic. There has also been an influx of migrants from other parts of India, an astounding 1.5 million at last count, to fill unskilled jobs that locals, even when otherwise unemployed, just do not want to do. As on October 2020, projects amounting to rupees 7,000 crore have been sanctioned. A significant push to infrastructure projects is provided by Kerala Infrastructure Investment Fund Board. The total outlay of projects approved by KIIFB as on March 31, 2020 is rupees 54,391 crores. Out of the total 679 projects approved, 675 projects pertain to infrastructure and 4 projects relate to industrial infrastructure. In 2019-20, rupees 3,502 crores were distributed to various projects. The total disbursement till March 31, 2020 is rupees 5,014 crores. Provision of housing to all has been the objective of the government. With the objective, the government started the Life Mission, a focused initiative to address the issue of housing in the state. As on December 1, 2020, 2,43,522 houses has been completed under the mission. The NRI deposits in the bank in Kerala have crossed the rupees 2 trillion mark, rupees 2 lakh crore, for the first time, indicating expatriates' mentality to save more than spend in recent years. It took less than 5 years to touch rupees 2 trillion from rupees 1 trillion, despite many of the NRKs losing jobs in Gulf economies in the last 3 to 4 years due to fall in oil prices. The NRI deposit in Kerala first crossed the rupees 1 trillion mark in March 2015. This meant it took over 4 decades for the NRI deposits to cross that figure, considering that the first set of emigrants from the state went to West Asia in the 1970s in search of jobs and to secure their family's future. As per the survey of India's inward remittance in 2016-17, Kerala accounted for 19% of total inward remittance in India. Economists often speak of the curse of oil, which occurs when an economy becomes excessively dependent on a single lucrative natural resource, which in turn decreases the rest of the economy and distorts its structure. This is the story in many oil-rich Gulf states. Ironically, we see in Kerala a mirror image of this phenomenon, which we can call the curse of remittances. If one day political developments in the Gulf states were to reverse the migration patterns and slash remittance, what would happen to Kerala? The irony is that Kerala has long been recognized to have done many things right. For years, the darling of development experts, non-government organizations, and social activists, the Kerala model seemed to show that impressive level of human development indicators in health, education, and quality of life, comparably even to some rich countries, could be achieved without a correspondingly high level of income. Social development of Kerala is unique as the state has successfully tackled the problems of illiteracy, high infant mortality rate, high maternal mortality rate, high birth rate vis-a-vis related indicators of underdevelopment, while many other Indian states are still grappling with the problems. The planned expenditure of Kerala on social services constituted about 24% of the total planned expenditure from the first 5-year plan, whereas the all India figure ranges between 17 and 20%. The non-planned expenditure on social services constitutes about 36% of the total government expenditure of Kerala. With all these positive signs of development, the people of the state are also having some serious issues which should be addressed immediately, though different means. 64.4% farmers were in debt against all India average of 48.6%, with average debt of each farmers was rupees 33,907 against all India average of only rupees 12,585. The statistics revealed by the National Crime Records Bureau showed that Kochi is the most dangerous city affected by crime. Drinking among the men and harassing women are also issues in the state. Social development of Kerala is unique as the state has successfully tackled the problems of this I have already done. Even in the rural wage employment program like Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantees Scheme, MGNREGS, women participation is highest in the recent years. The social development has been taking place as primarily due to the fact that the state has followed a different development path and rapid strides have been made in extending the two major public services at the grassroots levels, education and health. Kerala's unusual socio-economic and demographic situations was summarized by author and environmentalist Bill McCabe. I quote, Kerala state in India is a bizarre anomaly among developing nations, a place that offers real hope for the future of the third world. Though not much larger than Maryland, Kerala has a population as big as California and a per capita annual income of less than $3,000. But its infant mortality rate is very low. Its literacy rate among the highest on earth, and its birth rate below America's and falling faster. Kerala's residents live nearly as long as Americans or Europeans. Though mostly a land of paddy-covered plains, statistically, Kerala stands out as the Mount Everest of social development. There is truly no place like it, unquote. And to discuss, because now once the elections are over, after the 2nd May, the new government will be in place. Whichsoever government will come. There are 3 options, LDF, UDF, and NDA. Now, out of these 3 governments, whichsoever government is going to take place after the 2nd May, how the Kerala can go further. Because we have seen initially Kerala did very nicely about the COVID-19 management. But in between, Kerala became one of the worst state where the maximum number of COVID-19 per million or per lakhs patients we have seen. Now, gradually it is improving, although the COVID-19 is coming back, the COVID returns, as we have seen the yesterday figure only, more than 1.15 lakhs new cases were found in India. So to discuss the COVID, the Kerala, the way forward, we have a very eminent, knowledgeable, learned, and those who are authority in their own fields, panelists with us. I would like to invite my first panelist. He is Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS is one-man expert commission on labor to prepare an action plan for the welfare and development of the workforce in the context of COVID-19. He was former head of disaster management, Government of India, and Central Draft Relief Commissioner, Government of India. He is also the principal advisor, Government of India Heritage Project. He was the Vice Chancellor of National Museum, University of Delhi. He has authored 40 books in English, Malayalam, and Hindi, including novels, short stories, and essays. 4 of his books have become bestsellers. 4 books on Vastu and architecture and 1 book on housing received prestigious the Sharjah International Book Fair Award. Dr. Bose is an housing expert, innovator, writer, orator, and visionary. The path-breaking institutions set up by him, such as Nirmiti Kendra, Building Center, District Tourism Council, and Habitat Alliance, have been replicated at the state, national, and global level. He was the head of the prestigious Supreme Court Committee on the Treasures of Sri Padmanabha Swami Temple. Dr. Bose addressed United Nations General Assembly and specialized sessions 5 times on various international issues. Dr. Bose is a recipient of 31 national and international awards, including United Nations Global Best Practice Award. He also received prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru Fellowship. Kerala government termed him Lord of Ideas. Former Prime Minister Mr. Manmohan Singh called him inspired civil servant, and our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi called him Man of Ideas. Welcome, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, on our show. Dr. Bose, you yourself is a Keralite. You served in the bureaucracy for almost 4 decades in Kerala. And now you are serving the government of India as one-man expert commission, as well as the advisors through the principal advisor to the government for the heritage project. And you are very well acquainted about the working of Kerala's government, because you were the principal secretary with the chief minister for several years. Now, we would like to know from you, Kerala, the way forward. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. Now the din and bustle of elections are over. People have clearly expressed their choices. We are all waiting for the counting date. Now the issue before every citizen of Kerala is what next? Whichever government comes to power, people expect certain basic minimum things from them. Will they be able to deliver? What are they expected to deliver? So the experience of Kerala has been dismal. In spite of the encouraging narrative that was read out here, the field situation is different. The state has been governed, or rather rampaged, by 2 coalitions, the UDF and the LDF. What is the difference between the UDF and the LDF? Some cynic has said the difference is that between elephant hairs is on the right leg and elephant hairs is on the left. 2 wrongs, even if they are mutually contradictory, cannot constitute one right. 2 half-wits will not constitute a wit. I think Kerala is now in a very, very precarious position. The choice has only been between the UDF and the LDF. And what is the difference between the 2? I would draw your attention to what one of the very revered poets in Kerala, Kunyuni Marsh, has said. There is a crow who is black in color, and there is a stork who is white in color. The crow asks the stork, which is better, my dark black color or your white color? The stork said, both are good. Your black is good, my white is also good. He said, please don't evade the question like that. Let us do one thing. Let us sit on the wayside, this way and that way. Let the passers-by decide which is better. So they sat on the wayside, looking this way and that way. All the passers-by said, what a strange creature it is. And one gentleman came and scrutinized it and then said, oh, it is different on the outside, but it's one and the same inside. The people of Kerala also have now realized the UDF and the LDF, it looks different from outside, but it is one and the same inside. And what has the state gained by them? Corruption, agency corruption. You know, when you are in power, you do corruption, unbridled corruption. Those who are in the opposition will criticize you. When they come to power, they will also resort to corruption, others will criticize you. This game has been going on in the state, and the so-called Kerala model of development, now that has been discredited. So it was flaunted for years that Amartya Sen, the Nobel laureate, has lauded the Kerala model of development. He never did that. See, there are certain things which are attributed to certain great people for the sake of honor and prestige. For instance, we all hear that Napoleon said impossible is a word found only in the dictionary of fools, but he never said it. And Lord Wellington, it is attributed to him. The Battle of Waterloo was won on the playing grounds of Eton, but he never said it. It's attributed to him. Similarly, this Kerala model of development is something which is wrongly attributed to Amartya Sen. Let it remain where it is. Now, coming to the way forward, that's more important. The way forward is more important. See, all the political parties, all the coalitions have given goody-goody statements in their manifestos. But how much of it will get implemented? That is the question which is vexing the Kerala people. What are they going to do? Now, I would, at the preliminary stage itself, I would say, a lot of freebies are being distributed there. Who has given the authority to the political parties to take the taxpayers' money and distribute freebies? See, there are certain things like assured basic income, which should be given, or food security, or housing security, that we can understand. But distributing freebies just at the eve of the election, that is not going to improve the economy of the state. What the people want is substantial action, which will usher in sustainable development in the state. And now when you come to sustainability, I don't want to take more time because my senior and very revered civil servant and public activist and thinker, Sri R. Ramendra sir is here, so I should give more time to listen to him. But yet I would say, see, instead of doing the planning based on gross domestic product GDP, now the focus is on gross happiness index. Gross happiness index is a concept which is given by the King of Bhutan. That has now been accepted in the United States. If we plan out our development activities based on the gross happiness index, all should change. As WA said, all change utterly. A terrible beauty should be found. To be precise, what does the people expect of this government? At least to meet their basic minimum needs, like fundamental rights, we have got certain fundamental needs also. Roti, kapda, makan, as we say in Hindi. Yes, we need houses, we need food, we need clothing. Has the government given it? Neither the UDF nor the LDF has been able to give this. Now, of course, the NDA is also in the picture. What people expect of the government, please do concrete steps, take concrete steps to see that we are all given houses. Everyone in the state gets a house over a period of, say, 5 years. And also food security is there. But declare the state as hunger-free. Mere declaration, announcement is not enough. You should put in place a system where no one in the state will go hungry. Then clothing. Is it so difficult to give free clothing for 22 lakhs of those below the poverty line? The panchayats can do this. After that, every home should have at least one job per house. This need not necessarily be government jobs. It can be, startups can be encouraged. And also, where no employment opportunities are required, there, something like the employment guarantee scheme can be given and give pension to people. No, I know pension cannot easily be taken from the budget. There it should be linked to insurance. That is what the modern states are all doing. I think there are so many ways of improving the lot of the people if the government which is going to come to power is determined. And when I say government, it is not the political party which rules the state. The opposition also has their own role to play. The opposition's job is not just to oppose anything. The opposition should remain as a corrective force. If that is done, if there is a paradigm shift in the political outlook in the state, I'm sure that state will certainly, others will come and say, here is God's own country. Now we come to boast, we are God's own country. But others should say, here is God's own country. We have all the wherewithal. We have a set of people who are excellent, who have gone to other countries and paved the way for their development. But how came that we are not able to make use of their good offices, their talent for building up this state into a prosperous state? I think hard thinking is required. And there should also be report cards on the ministers. The people should be able to give their report cards to the ministers. Whatever public expenditure is incurred, the people have a right to know that. I think there should be a system where public expenditure is advertised so that people have access. I think a clear paradigm shift is what is required here. And I also will stop here to listen to the words of wisdom which would come from Sri R. Ramendra Nair sir, because He was Chief Secretary of the State. He has vast administrative experience. He's a cultural leader. He's a thinker who reacts to contemporary issues in a very, very cogent way. And we also have the youngster who can represent the entire Pravasis who are working abroad. I think the Pravasis have sustained the economy of the state. We were called a money order economy. Even that has also got a ribbing in the context of the COVID-19. Therefore, I think it's a kind of determined, systematic approach which is required to usher in sustainable development in a state like Kerala. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, for giving your opening remark. And Dr. Bose said that whatsoever report which I have read is not correct because the reality on the ground is different. Report which says that the Kerala model, he says that model is now obsolete. It has not been properly managed by the successive governments. And he says that corruption is rampant in the government nowadays. He says even the roti kapda makan, the basic need of a person, is not been fulfilled. And he says the way forward is that the government, whichever government will be there, they have to see to it that all the residents, all the Kerala people should get the basic needs whatsoever. They must have at least one house, must have one employment, whether it's a direct employment or through the startups or in a private organization, but everyone should have, or through the employment guarantee scheme. But he says it has not been done. Till now, corruption is rampant, and he says there is no difference between the two successive governments. They are same from inside. Outside, they show that they are different. So his views are very, very clear. He says that Kerala, what we see from the outside, is not what is there the inside or the ground. At the ground, the conditions are not that gloomy, which they are projecting outside the state, that the state is very good. Thank you very much, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, for our viewers as well as for me about the reality of the Kerala. Now, I would like to invite my next guest, and he is Mr. R. Ramchandran Nair, IAS. Mr. Nair is the founder, Vice Chancellor of Sri Shankaracharya University, Kaladi, and former Chief Secretary, Government of Kerala. He is of 1961 IAS batch. He is author of several books in Sanskrit and Malayalam, poetry and prose. He is author of 4 Kathakali plays. He composed more than 500 songs for Carnatic classical music. He is an educationist who has established several colleges and schools in Kerala state and in Kanyakumari district of Tamil Nadu. He is well-known exponent of Vedanta philosophy, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita. Welcome, Mr. Ramchandran Nair on our show. Mr. Nair, you have heard what Dr. C.V. Anand Bose has spoken about the reality, ground reality of Kerala. You are also the chief. You were also the chief secretary of Government of Kerala, as well as you are associated with so many cultural organizations, and still you are actively participating in all those cultural activities. You are a literate yourself. You are writing so many. You have written so many books, as well as you have written so many plays and composed so many songs. You have seen the Kerala from inside. You have seen the Kerala people very closely. We would like to know from you, Kerala, the way forward. Mr. Ramchandran Nair, please. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute. Mr. Nair, please unmute. Please unmute. Please unmute. Yours is on mute. You have to just touch the button of, I think Mr. Nair will take time to just unmute. Please unmute Mr. Nair's device, please. Unmute. No, video. We want video to be on. Only the audio is to be unmute. There is an audio sign. Just touch that where that speaker sign is there. You have to just touch that speaker sign, so it will be unmute. Yes. Now it is unmuted. Yes, please go ahead.
As Sri Anand Bose has stated, the state of Kerala has been alternatively ruled by the United Democratic Front and the Left Democratic Front. Both of them, as he stated, have their own merits as well as demerits. But I do not believe that in the very near future, maybe next 5 years or 10 years, there is going to be any other front which will come to power on its own. Either the United Democratic Front, that is the UDF, or the Left Democratic Front, the LDF, will be in power in Kerala, at least for the next 5 or 10 years. So let us not hope that some other arrangement is going to come into being. One point which he is making is that Kerala's economy is a money order economy. Large number of people from Kerala have migrated to other parts of the world, especially to the Gulf countries, and they send money from there. The major part of the income of Kerala state is what these Kerala diaspora sends as money order from there. Now, it is true that Amartya Sen had lauded the Kerala model of development, that is giving emphasis to education and health. In many of his books, he has pointed out that by giving emphasis to education and health, Kerala has progressed. Kerala has become a model state, etc. But another great economist, Indian economist, Professor Jagadish Bhagavati, has disputed it. Jagadish Bhagavati said, Kerala gave emphasis to education and health alone and did not invest in industrial infrastructure. Kerala escaped only because of the Gulf boom, which came into existence during the last 40, 50 years. If the Gulf boom was not there, the Kerala model of development would have totally collapsed. That is the view which Dr. Jagdish Bhagavati, who is also a very famous economist, has put forward. And there's a lot of truth in what Dr. Bhagavati says. People from Kerala have migrated to the rest of the world, especially to the Gulf countries, and they are sending money from there. But no country can eternally depend on some other countries to come to their help all the time. Even now, large number of people from the Gulf have started returning. They are losing, many of them are losing their jobs. They are coming back to Kerala. If this continues, what we are praising as the Kerala model of development, giving emphasis only to health and education, may not sustain the Kerala economy. One point which is absolutely important in this consideration is we don't have an industrial infrastructure. It is not easy to industrialize Kerala because land is not easily available. Compared to Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, or Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, which are the other states of South India, land is extremely rare to get in Kerala because people are living all over the state, not in clusters. In other parts of India, a village means a cluster of houses. After one village, and another village comes a few kilometers away, and there is a lot of open land in between. That is not the system in Kerala. In Kerala, houses are there all over the state continuously. So you cannot get land which is not inhabited. Not nearly, 1/4 of the state, though the state is very small, it is only about 39,000 square kilometers. 1/4 of the state is forest, and deforestation is not an option. In the rest of the terrain also, there's a lot of lakes and watersheds where also we can. So to get adequate land for industrial infrastructure is quite difficult in Kerala. So industrialization, to the extent practicable, we have to try industrialization. I'm not saying that we should not try it at all. But the chances of industrializing Kerala are not very, very rosy. But the Kerala landscape is so beautiful. In India, perhaps only Kashmir alone compares with Kerala. Kerala is an extremely beautiful state. The waterways, the forests, the lakes, all these provide real beauty to the state. Therefore, the scope for tourism is very high. I'm not saying that it has not been tapped till now. Tourism potential of Kerala has been tapped, but it can be tapped much more. One point which I would like to highlight is south of the Himalayas, the tallest point in the whole of India is Anamudi in the Western Ghats, which is in Kerala. If you popularize Anamudi, the highest point apart from the Himalayas, Anamudi can attract large number of tourists. Then the place of birth of Adi Shankara is respected and venerated all over India and even outside India. The birthplace of Adi Shankara is in Kerala. That can be highlighted. That can attract a large number of tourists. I have also one suggestion which is not very easy to implement immediately because there will be objections from very conservative people. You cannot challenge their beliefs immediately and change the system all of a sudden. But in the rest of India, Hindu temples do allow people of other religion also to enter the temple premises. Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, Parsis, all can enter the temple premises in the rest of India. But it so happens that in Kerala, the traditional belief is that no person of another religion should be allowed to enter the premises of a Hindu temple in Kerala. I have come across large number of people belonging to the Christian religion, especially. I have not met many Muslims, but I've met many Christians who'd like to enter some of these famous Kerala temples. The great singer, Yeshudas, he has been repeatedly saying, I would like to enter the Guruvayur temple. I would like to see the inside because I am a devotee of Lord Guruvayurappan. But because he is a Christian, he is not allowed to enter. If that rule can be gradually changed with the acceptance of the Hindus, not by challenging them and disputing their beliefs. It is their belief that only Hindus can enter Padmanabha Swami temple, Guruvar temple, Vaikam temple, Atimanu temple, etc. Large number of non-Hindus wish to see temple tourism. Even now it is there. Hindus come from the rest of India to some of these great famous Kerala temples. Large number of Hindus from outside Kerala do come. But people, especially Christians coming from other countries outside India, many of them have expressed their desire to me, especially to enter the Padmanabha Swami temple, see what is there, because it is one of the richest, most famous temples. So such rules, which I think are outdated, can be changed now. Anyhow, even though the tourism potential of Kerala has been tapped to some extent, it has not been scientifically and elaborately done. I was the secretary in charge of forests for 4 years. There are extremely beautiful locations in the Kerala forest. If only we can bring tourists there. Ecotourism is something which is encouraged in the whole of the world. But somehow, the forest department in Kerala, they also think that the forests are sacrosanct. People should not enter the forest. And many of our people who believe that nature should be untouched, it is dangerous to allow people to enter the forest. It is not. Ecotourism is something which has been scientifically supported. You should not allow anyone to enter the forest and damage them. Many of the spots in the forest, because I was forest secretary and I have visited some of them, they are so extremely beautiful, so attractive. If we have tourism circuits, including some of the great temples, Hindu temples, the forest locations, the lakes and watersheds of Kerala, the potential for tourism is really very, very, very great. We have to encourage private enterprise and also encourage the government department of tourism to make a scientific study of the potential of tourism in Kerala and make use of it to the maximum extent. Industrialization of Kerala, as I said, is rather difficult because of the non-availability of land. But those industries which can be established without asking for vast areas of land can be thought of, and they should also be brought in. Industrialization and tourism, these are the two ideas which I have regarding the future development of Kerala. Now, Shanada Bose was speaking about corruption. See, corruption is something which is universal. I don't think that the UDF and Kerala, LDF of Kerala have been more corrupt than the rest of the states of India. Many states, many parties, many politicians, they are all corrupt. It's a fact. In Kerala also corruption is there. And my personal feeling is that there is less corruption in Kerala than in many other states of India. Because I have interacted with many of our ministers. I became the secretary to government in May 1973, and I retired as chief secretary in 1996 for about 23 years. I was secretary or chief secretary. I have interacted with a large number of ministers. Many of our Kerala ministers have been far better not only in the matter of corruption, but in many other things than what politicians are interested. But corruption is a universal phenomenon. Let us not worry about it. It will be there. Try to control it as much as you can. Whenever it comes to your notice, expose it, punish those who are corrupt. But even then, it will continue because, as they say, anyone who puts his hand in a pot of sugar will lick his hand. That is what is happening in the world. So let us not worry about corruption as such. It is not, Kerala ministers have been less corrupt than the rest of India. That is my experience. But we should have a very scientific, very well thought out, very well studied program for the future economic development of Kerala without entirely depending on what Shrandabose had called the money order economy. The money order economy can continue for some more time, so long as money comes from the Gulf countries and from other parts of the world. Let us welcome them. But let us not eternally depend on money which comes from outside. Let us work hard and look at the possibility of industrialization and also tourism. And our techno park and info park and all, they are doing very great service. And I hope that they will invite attention from the rest of the world. More entrepreneurs will come to our techno park, info park and all, and establish here, because we have very well-educated young men and young women. They have a potential to be employed by other industrialists and entrepreneurs. Let's hope that Kerala has a great future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramchandran Nair, for giving your views about the Kerala, the way forward. And as Mr. Nair has said, that he agrees many things of Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, but he disagrees also in few points. He said, yes, Mr. Amrit Sen in many of these books emphasize about the Kerala model. And he says the Kerala model is successful because they have given the emphasis on health and education. But he's also mentioned, Mr. Nair also mentioned that the very famous Indian economist, Dr. Jagdish Bhagwati, has mentioned very clearly that Kerala model could not be sustained because there is no industrialization. The main emphasis of Kerala was only for health and education, but nothing for the industrialization. And until the industrialization is not been done, it's not possible to sustain the Kerala model. That is one point which he has raised. But he says there are lots of other things where the Kerala can do in future. And one point he says is about the tourism. And he says his personal opinion is that the Hindu temple should be allowed to be visited by the other religions, other communities, which are not allowed at present. He says many of his Christian friends would like to visit many temples, and he has given example of the famous singer Yesudas ji. He wanted to visit Guruvayur temple, but he cannot go being a Christian. So he says if we will allow and make a circuit of tourism in which temples we can take, we can have other things, we can attract lots of tourism in Kerala. He says Kerala, the other tourism attraction is the forest. He mentioned that he was the forest department and the secretary in charge for 4 years, and he has seen how the beauty is there in the Kerala forest. And he mentioned that if we will allow the tourism, ecotourism in the forest, many from all over the world, the tourists will come. And I can vouch, I can also mention this thing very authentically, this same thing the US and other countries are doing. There, all the forests are open for the tourists. Only difference here is and there is that the people are very sensible. They have the civic senses. They never try to destroy anything. They never try to pluck anything which is not allowed. But in India, the problem is if you allow the forest tourism, then definitely the public has to be with full civic senses. They should not they should not litter. They should not try to destroy the beauty of the forest, which according to Mr. Ramchand Nair, one should do it with control, with a proper control, so that people can watch you could see, and that's a very big way it can be done. Third point he has made about the industrialization. He says that Kerala is not being industrialized. The reason is very clear, the paucity of land, because there is no cluster of homes in village, rather the homes are everywhere. So the land is not available. But he says that there are many industries which doesn't require so much land. Yes, like IT industries, etc., which can be started in a big way in Kerala. There should be a thrust on that, where the entrepreneurs can come, because the lots of young boys and girls who are well educated can be employed there and can be asset for that particular enterprises. So he says there is lots of opportunities in Kerala which are still untapped, but it requires persuasion. It requires all the stakeholders involvement, like the temples as well as the forest, at least these two things. One more very interesting point which Mr. Nair has mentioned, he says the present governments, which are the successive government, LDF and UDF, are going to continue for at least 5 to 10 years more, whichsoever, because there is no third option is likely to take over in at least the future 5 to 10 years. That is the views as far as Mr. Ramchandran Nair has mentioned. And he says about the corruption, which Dr. Bose has mentioned, his views are very clear. He says Kerala people are less corrupt, and especially the politicians are less corrupt than the politicians in other states. And he is very, very clear in that. He says that I have worked for 23 years as secretary or the principal secretary or the chief secretary in the Kerala government and interacted with so many of the ministers. And according to Mr. Nair, the corruption is less than what is rampant across the India in all other states. And he is very clear that, and he says that if there is a corruption, please expose it, please give the punishment. But to term that the Kerala is full of corruption, according to Mr. Ramchandran Nair, it's not like that. And he hopes that the Kerala can have a very bright future, because if we will just change and we will trap those things which he has suggested. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramchandran Nair, for giving such a positive views about the Kerala, the way forward. Now I would like to invite my next guest, and he is Mr. Sanjeev Purushothaman. Mr. Sanjeev is the founder of Indo-Arab Business Leaders Forum, Dubai. I asked Mr. Sanjeev specifically to give me more profile. He says, no, this profile is more than enough. Because he believes in work. He says, my work is my profile. And so Mr. Sanjeev, who is a very well-known NRI, not an NRI, is a well-known Pravasi in Gulf area, because once this program was announced only yesterday, when the flyers have gone, I received messages from the Gulf, and a few of them who have appeared on my shows, they say they are very close to Mr. Sanjeev. So he's very, very popular socially there in Gulf region, especially in Dubai. Mr. Sanjeev, welcome to our show. You have heard Dr. C.V. Anand Bose as well as Mr. Ramchandran Nair. They have given their opinions about the Kerala. They have also mentioned how the Kerala can be a way forward, how the Kerala can be developed. We would like to know from you, your views, Kerala, the way forward. Mr. Sanjeev Purushothaman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Lal. First, I would like to thank you for the introduction. And in fact, I'm humbled to share the day with two senior bureaucrats. Dr. C.V. Anandabose and Sir Ramachandran Nair, two experienced senior bureaucrats, and they have rightly pointed out what is actually the Kerala is going through. And I would like to add some points from a NRI perspective. I've been in the Middle East for almost 20 years, and I've seen actually the developments and now the pandemic situation as well. As two senior leaders said, it is absolutely right. Kerala is a money order economy. We give almost $75 billion from Middle East to India every year. And as you rightly pointed out, in 2015, it was 1 trillion rupees. Now it has become 2 trillion rupees. So the money comes from Middle East, especially Middle East, I would rightly say, and Europe, as you have Europe NRIs, but they don't send the money to India. They invest in housing and other things wherever they live. So here, when they make some savings, they send it to Kerala, especially in as far as UAE is concerned. We have 1.5 million Keralites among 3.5 million NRIs. So whenever we make some, we send it to India. And unfortunately, both the governments, since 1957, we have two left and right governments from 67 years. I respect Sir Dr. Ramana sir has said, the politicians are less corrupted in Kerala, maybe some time back. But I have seen almost this 10 years time, there is no scam left in Kerala now. You have gold scam, you have solar scam, there is no scam left. Every minister from UDF and LDF are, charged in the FIR. One is in solar scam while UDF government was there, and now the dollar and gold scam. And this is the first time in the Indian history where a buck stops, correction, stops in Chief Minister's office. His advisor, his principal secretary, his speaker, education minister, everybody is being involved in this. And enforcement is reaching the cabinet, Chief Minister's office. So this is LDF story, and even previous UDF story is also not different. Solar scam and other things. So I would keep that aside. And when it comes to the industrialization and development in Kerala, we have seen people from NRIs, those who go and invest in Kerala, and there is an example, Andur Sajan, it's in Kannur, in fact, they invested 15 crores and ultimately he had to suicide to get an approval for this convention center. And we have number of other cases in Alappuzha district, Ernakulam, and all these places. When they go and invest and start industries, the people come and, put a flag there and they have to leave the country. And, so I have my friends, many people, they have gone and, they have experienced the similar factor, everywhere there is a problem. And they say that it's a single window clearance, but when you go and, apply, you have to pay the, bribes and you have to beg them. And this is the facts in Kerala. So people goes to other states where they go to Karnataka, they go to, if you look at the current scenario, UP when during the last 3.5 years, they have got almost, $20 billion as investment only from FDI investment. And all as investing 500 acre land industrialization in Tamil Nadu. Foxconn is investing in UP. And every industry from coming outside, they are going to other states. So the employment, there is no, none of the government, even whether it is LDF or UDF, they are completely failed to create employment opportunities for Keralites. And now during the pandemic, we have seen almost 500,000 people have back to Kerala. And these people, they are highly skilled and highly experienced on the different industries. So government has failed to make use of their experience. Still, I'm not sure about, the political perspective, what Ramachandran sir said, maybe another 5 years, LDF and UDF may, a combined, but I can see that the current trend, the NDA under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, there is a significant development is happening in roots of the Kerala. So I'm sure that there will be a political change, and it is imperative for the development of Kerala, because Narendra Modi ji has given a clear mandate for the development of every state, and he has himself come down to Kerala, inaugurated number of projects in 2 months back. In Cochin, there is a BPCL project, 6,000 crores project, and there is a naval project of 25 crores, and 65,000 crores has been allocated for the development of infrastructure only for Kerala during the last budget. So these things have to make use of it, and the people, the main important things, what I would reiterate, the industrialization and tourism. And I would add one more thing, agriculture, because as sir said, there is a scarcity of the land, but every house will have at least average maybe a 25 cent or 50 cent land. So this can be make use of for the agriculture. And there are paddy fields which is left, but people are afraid to make use of that because there will be political issues, some other issues. So we need a policy, clear policy for the agriculture, tourism, industrialization. This is very, very important. Otherwise, it is not too far. The money order economy is going to be finished very soon, because you can see that people are coming back, and thanks to all the rulers of these Middle East countries, so far they have been very helpful, and the policies are very useful for the NRIs. And they are they have made savings, and that savings have been sent to Kerala. And 35% of the Kerala GDP is reliable on now Middle East economy, mid NRIs. So once this is over, I'm sure that Kerala will be going back to different very difficult situation. So Kerala has a lot of years. This years has to manage. We need a proper planned policy for the industrialization, tourism, and development of the agriculture and employment creations. Yes, we are a very highly educated society, but I'm not sure that educated society in terms of what, because whenever it comes to any issue, we have Kerala people involved in that. Any scam or anything anywhere, Kerala people are involved. So we need a society change, we need a policy change, a lot of things, so I'm sure our Kerala people will look at their thought process, and it is high time to look for a new alternative government, other than LDF and UDF. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Sajeev, for giving your views. And according to Mr. Sajeev, he disagree with Mr. Ramchandran on 2-3 aspects. First aspect, he says that he disagree very clearly about the corruption. He says there is rampant of corruption in Kerala, and he has given an example of his own known pupil who have invested about 15 crore rupees in Kannur district, but the person has to commit suicide because there were no permissions were given at the last moment. The NOC was declined. And he says whenever some industry starts, the red flag is put there, and then their people have to go here and there for getting the permissions, and ultimately they decide not to put any money there. And he says that that's why Kerala is losing very badly, and the investment is going to UP, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. Then he says if the Kerala will not change their policy in the coming time, then definitely the industry will not be there. He says that tourism is required, industry is required, as well as he mentioned about the agriculture tourism. He says agriculture is to be given a very, very on the top priority, because the lands are there, but the people are afraid to do anything because of the political and other reasons. And he is very clear. He says that the money order economy, or the money which was sent by the Pravasis and NRIs, are going to finish soon. If this will happen, then what is going to be the future of Kerala? He says this is the right time to concentrate on the industry, concentrate on tourism industry, concentrate on agriculture industry or agriculture tourism. Until unless we don't do this, we are, according to Mr. Sajeev, he is afraid that the Kerala model will at least even sustain, forget about the success. And according to him, he also disagree with Mr. Ramchandran Nair that the UDF, there is no alternative for UDF and LDF for 5-10 years. He says no, already the alternate has come, that in the form of NDA under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi. He says the people have to think, because the way, until unless a clear-cut policy, which like our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi has given, if not been implemented, then the fate of the future or the Kerala is not good, and it's going to be a disaster. So he is of very hopeful. He says if not this time, the next time there is very good chances for the NDA to come in power. And he also mentioned that this government have to change their attitude, their way of working, because there is rampant of corruption, there is a lack of planning, and their implementation is very bad. And he says the Pravasis, he gave the thanks to the Gulf rurals who according to him, that because of their cooperations, till now the Pravasi have sent the money to India, but it is not going to continue. And in one way, yes, it is right, because the oil prices are going down, the demand is going to be down, because now we are in India and everywhere in the world, the electric transportations is going to be the new norm. And once that will come, the demand of the oil will come down. So the Gulf money which is coming to Kerala, the maximum in India, will go down. And if that will go down, what is going to happen? And he says the government has to think the alternative way on a very, very urgent basis. Thank you very much, Mr. Sajeev, for giving your views from the Pawasi side, because you are there, you know far better than anyone else the reality of the Pravasis. Thank you very much. Now I would like to go to our panelist, and the first I would like to go to Dr. C.V. Anand Bose. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, you have heard all our other two panelists also. One panelist has not agreed with you, the other panelist agreed with you. Now my question to you is, it was reported in media that the Prime Minister in his recent Kerala visit during elections campaign, he called you for one-to-one discussion with him. And it was obvious, although we don't know what has happened behind the closed door, but the people are guessing, the media is also guessing, that the main discussion was on Kerala. What do you think the views of our Honorable Prime Minister on the way forward after the elections for Kerala? Because Kerala is a place which is very literate, maximum literacy is there, lots of potential is there. And as you have mentioned, as well as even Mr. Ramchandra Nair also said, there's a potential to trap, and Mr. Sajeev has mentioned. So what roadmap is there in mind of our Honorable Prime Minister for Kerala after the elections, after the new government will come? Dr. C. Anand Bose, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. Being a disciplined civil servant, I would like to be tight-lipped about what the Honorable Prime Minister has discussed with me. But there are certain aspects of it which are already in the public domain. Therefore, I will stick to that. The Prime Minister's priority, as is clearly stated in the one-to-one discussion, was also mainstreaming the minorities. This is not something which he is saying for the first time. As you remember, in his first address to the Parliamentary Board after this general election, he had stressed the need for mainstreaming the minorities. What he wants is the minorities to be brought to the center stage of activities in the nation. In the one-to-one discussion also, what he said is, I have been given the task of working for this end. That is what he was assessing. And he said very clearly, the Muslims, the Christians, the Sikhs, anyone who is in this land, belongs to this land, they have every freedom to practice their religion. If there is any misgiving among the minorities, it is up to the government to take steps to dispel those misgivings. Government is committed to that. The nation is committed to that. He said, in a pluralistic society such as ours, every community should feel that they are free to practice and profess whatever they believe in. It is that end that he wanted the social integration process to take to its logical conclusion. And he was very, very categorical in his statement that in India, everyone should feel we are Indians. Once we are part and parcel of India, political differences will be there. He knows very well that in a democracy, dissent denotes only the strength of democracy. That is one point which he had stressed. A second point, of course, what were his views on the political system here that I would not like to discuss here because I don't have the mandate for that. The second one, which he said, is a need for India's soft power to be nurtured, protected, and promoted. This Mr. Goel may be happy that one long session the global TV had devoted for India's soft power. Many of the recommendations which emerged from this, including, I think, Dr. Ramchandran Nair sir was also there. Most of these recommendations have been given in the form of a report. That report was submitted to the Prime Minister. He welcomed it, and I got a feedback that follow-up action is being taken at the Prime Minister's office. So these are the, when I say soft power, it will help crores and crores of people in the country who are artists, sculptors, painters, dancers, musicians, and artists and cultural leaders of all hues. The setting up of certain institutions like the Art Authority of India and holding the Best of India festivals in all countries every year. Setting up of heritage villages in all the states and providing an assured basic income to the artists in hours of crisis. There are 105 recommendations which are there in the report. This report was also discussed. And the third thing, which of course is personal, some of the books which I have authored have been presented to him, and I got some complimentary words from the Prime Minister. These are the main topics of discussion. About elections, of course, the Prime Minister has his own views, and those views are very much known to everybody because he has expressed it in the public domain. I don't want to elaborate on that. Now, I would like to clarify one or two points here. There is no major difference of opinion between me and other panelists, Hajiv, and what our doyen, Sri Ramchandran Nair, has expressed. It's only a matter of perception. Everybody agrees there is corruption. Yes, there is corruption. And Sajeev has revealed out the list of corruption. There is corruption. But our senior officer is correct. Compared to the enormity of the corruption which is taking place in the other states, what is happening in Kerala may be a pittance. That is volume based. But I would always stick to zero tolerance of corruption. There should be zero tolerance of corruption. It's not a quantum which matters. But a corrupt society should not be tolerated in a democracy. Successive governments in the state were riddled with corruption. May not be of a very high magnitude. I think the first corruption charge was that one minister took a truck, a 1-ton truck as a bribe. The second corruption was a diamond necklace was a long time back. Then it came to a few 10 crores, 20 crores, 100 crores. It has never reached the 1,000 crores. Yes. That way there is lesser corruption here. Now, how to establish that? That is the most difficult thing. See, who is the cop? Who is the thief? We should know. When this government makes corruption while they are in office, the coming government should take action against them. They are not taking it. That is the problem there. The cop becomes the thief becomes the cop. And we do not know who exactly is the culprit. That is a phenomenon which we are decrying. And secondly, about the Kerala model of development. Yes, there is something called the Kerala model of development. As Ramchandran sir has rightly pointed out, our insistence on healthcare education. But this does not start with the democratic governments. This started with the earlier royal family. They paved the way for healthcare and education in the state, not by the democratic governments. Now, certainly that insistence is good, and that is why in the Human Development Index, we are on a par with the European states. That is all correct. But the fact remains that all the aberrations in development, which are also sought to be justified by the common word Kerala model of development, and attributing to a respected person like Amartya Sen, that is a trend which we are questioning. Not everything, all that glitters is not gold. All that happens in Kerala is not Kerala model. There are certain features which are acceptable. Therefore, I think there is no dichotomy among the panelists here. Only thing is that it's a matter of perception. Yes, corruption should not be there. Compared to various other states, the corruption in Kerala may be less, which is true, which is certainly true. But we should also know, Kerala is a small state. There isn't enough resource to corrupt on also. That part also is to be understood. Now, where do we go from here? See, as Mr. Ramchandran Nair and our young friend Sajeev has said, there are so many areas where Kerala can make giant strides. In healthcare, in education, in tourism. These are the three main areas where Kerala can emerge as a global hub. And Sajeev has already pointed out the importance to be given to agriculture. Kerala is an agricultural land, but somehow in the process of revolution, which took place in the agrarian sector, agriculture died, the farmers disappeared, and we became a state which is dependent on other states for a consumer state. Now, agriculture, Kerala has every chance of becoming the organic agricultural hub of India. I will draw a comparison to Holland. Holland, which has not any feature of becoming a great agricultural country, is now feeding Europe. In 2050, they estimate that the world will need twice the amount of food which in the last 8,000 years all the farmers of the world has produced. They are trying to come into that market. There is tremendous scope in the food sector, and Kerala has got every chance of becoming a leader in organic agriculture. Youngsters should also be brought into the fold. That's what is called agripreneurship, not entrepreneur. It is entrepreneurship in the agriculture area. As you know, the post-harvest management, that is collection, grading, transportation, storage, retrieval, processing, marketing, export. It offers tremendous scope for agripreneurship. The youngsters can be brought into this, and India, Kerala can prosper only on the strength of agriculture if it is determined on that. Now about industry. I think my senior also said, Kerala is not able to achieve benefits or reap the desired benefits from the industrial sector because, as Sajeev also said, very unhealthy practices which are prevailing in the field, which leads the industrialists even to commit suicide. I think such negative trends are to go. There should be make in Kerala parks, and ease of business has to be ensured. Now, Kerala is one of the worst countries as far as ease of business is concerned. That has to go. And Kerala has got tremendous scope for improving its infrastructure. What I would recommend is not isolate your cases of roads or railways or waterways. What I would recommend is a grand Kerala transportation trail, which will be a multimodal transportation network which connects one part of Kerala with the other. With wayside amenities, Kerala has tremendous scope to develop industry as well as tourism and also other services sectors. And now there are certain areas, certain sections of people who are neglected. That is scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. We still give lip service to them. A concentrated effort is to be done to bring up those people also to the mainstream of life. Once Gandhiji said, when he visited Trivandrum during the time of the temple entry proclamation, the Diwan boasted that this is one of the most revolutionary social reforms which India has seen. With a smile, Gandhiji asked, does its benefits go to the Nayadis, that is the lowest of the lower class at that time? Unless the social reforms reach the lowliest and the least of society, it has no relevance. Kerala still remains where it is. Where during the time of the Renaissance leaders, only lip service has been given by the politician. So that has been taken into account. And coming to the women, see, women, it is said that we have matrilineal and matriarchal society. That is all on paper. Women are also neglected in Kerala. We boast yatra naryasta pujyante, ramande tatra devata, where the women are honored, there the gods rejoice. But that is not the field situation in Kerala. You also cited the unemployment rate is more among women in Kerala compared to other states. So therefore, again, I would say all that glitters is not gold, even in God's own country. Therefore, a concerted attempt has to be made to have a comprehensive development plan for the state. And instead of political differences, let there be political differences. That is a part of democracy. But when it comes to development of the state, there should be a consensus. I think this that consensus that has to emerge among the common people of the state, and also the political outfits, the LDF, the UDF, and the NDA. And about the NDA, it is a very realistic projection. That's the Ramendra sir made. But I would say in politics, arithmetic is different, chemistry is different. There can be a sudden change which will usher in the NDA government in Kerala. What happened in Tripura? No one expected that a single MLA could be elected there from the BJP or their cohort. But now who is ruling there? And 33 years of rule, sustained continuous rule of the Marxists in Bengal. What has happened there now? Therefore, a change is essential. A change will certainly take place. In this one factor, we perhaps did not take into account. There is the new generation. The new generation sees everything. They assess everything. Once they take a decision, in one click, the NDA, UDF, LDF, everything will go. A new generation of rulers will come. That, there are 16 youngsters in the world who are presidents or prime ministers, who are only 16 to 35 years. 16 of them. This is going to be the age of the youngsters. We old people do not really see what is there in their mind. Their mind is all, once it is ignited, I am sure that all these concepts of LDF, UDF, and that things cannot change, things will change. Things are changing. Once the things change, after the Easter 1916 rebellion, where nobody thought the tiny set of people of Ireland will be able to gain liberty. They gain liberty. And in the euphoria, the poet Nobel laureate W.B. said, all change utterly. A terrible beauty is born. Before I see Kerala, my own land, my own home state, my motherland. Kerala rising like a giant from its sleep and shaking its invincible law. Kerala will certainly make the whole world stand up and say in unison, yes, this is God's own country. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, for giving so forceful reply for my simple question. But I am thankful to you that the recommendations of yours has been approved, and most likely it's going to be implemented soon about the soft power, which was discussed on the Global TV and V4 News and all other channels on the media conference with Lal Goel. Thank you very much, Dr. Bose. Now I have a paucity of time, but still I will like to ask one question fast, one question fast with a, I don't see, I think Mr. Okay, so I'm going to directly to Mr. Sajeev Kushwatham. Mr. Sajeev, do you think the successive governments of Kerala were fair to Pravasis? And what immediate steps the new government should take to support the interest of Pravasis? 2 minutes only, please.
Yeah, Mr. Goel, thank you for asking this question, right question. In fact, we have seen both the governments, and this, unfortunately or fortunately, NRIs pampered both of these governments, different perspective whenever they come to Dubai or UAE or Middle East, anywhere, they pampered. So, but both of these government have miserably failed to address the concerns of the NRIs. Even during the pandemic, when they reached, Kerala, they were not able to provide a minimum facilities. Not even a bathroom, not even a bed space. So it is absolutely both of these government have culpable for this kind of activities. And the previous government, the Honorable Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, when he came to Dubai, he offered even a 6-month salary to the NRIs. When he comes here, when you lose the job, you will be offered a 6-month salary. So this kind of fake promises was given, both of these governments, and NRIs, and they have fed up. This is they want a positive and a government, those who can help them and address their concerns, number of things. So I hope May 2nd we will have a positive mandate, and going forward, all the Keralites and Pravasis will look for a government, those who can address their concerns for their employment, to address their skills, and to address their future growth in terms of even when they wanted to come back to Middle East countries, or when they return to their motherland. So I hope we will have a positive result on May 2nd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sajeev, for giving your views. So today you have seen how the Kerala and the Keralites are looking forward, the way forward after the new government will take charge, because they are literate, they are educated, they are giving the maximum foreign remittance to India, and they want their state should develop like anything. There are lacunas, they have mentioned, all the panelists have mentioned what are the lacunas, but there is lots of way forward. The there's lots of scope for tourism. There's lots of scope for the industrialization. So all these things are there if at all, if the new government take the charges and the promises which they have made in their manifestos, if they fulfill those promises, definitely the Kerala, which is leading in many ways, I will not say only the corruption, but the corruption is there, as our panelists have mentioned, but in other ways also, they can lead the country, and in turn, the country will be the global leader, because each and every state has to come forward and lead the ways. Thank you very much, all the panelists. And today's program, which has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarocar News, as well as was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor to enlighten you with the current topic. And tomorrow is a very, very relevant topic. And the media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. The topic is mobile phone addiction. Yes, earlier it was, but now after this COVID pandemic, everyone is now addicted with the mobile phone. Earlier, the parents used to tell the child not to touch the mobile, but now they have no other option to provide the mobile, and especially the smartphone, so the education can take place. But it has become an addiction. So mobile phone addiction, and our panelists are Dr. Rajiv Anand, Senior Psychiatrist, Mumbai, Dr. Pooja Sharma Dimri, gynecologist and obstetricians, Singapore, Miss Molly Gupta, restaurant owner, Mumbai, Miss Vibha Jain, chartered accountant, Mumbai, and Miss Mrinalini Avasthi Nikki, child psychologist, Pune. So please tune in tomorrow for this very, very interesting topic, that is media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. mobile phone addiction. Thank you very much, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramchand Nair, and thank you very much, Mr. Sajeev, for joining us and giving your very, very encouraging and enlightening views. Thank you all the viewers for listening and viewing our program. Thank you very much.